Welcome to the Healing Paths podcast weekly hot take series. Each week, we bring you powerful stories and strategies from leaders who are making a real impact by building stronger, more resilient communities. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and equipped with tools to thrive in both your personal and professional life. Welcome to the Healing Path weekly podcast series, part of the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest, Brianna Brooks of E.L. Haynes Public Charter School. She is the talent manager there. Thanks for joining us today, Brianna.
Hi, Susanna. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here with the Healing Path.
Me too. And when I read about you, I just really got excited to hear about the beautiful work you're doing at what just looks like a phenomenal school. So can you just give us a 90-second overview of your school, what it does, and why you got into it?
Yes. So I work for E.L. Haynes Public Charter School. We are an award-winning pre-K through 12th grade school, and we were founded in 2004. So we just celebrated 20 strong years of services.
Congrats.
We are located in wards 1 and 4 in Washington, D.C. And like I said, we're E.L. Haynes. And just to clarify, E.L. represents Euphemia Lofton Haynes. And she is the first African-American female to receive a PhD in mathematics. Amazing. Which really hits home to me, and why part of the reason why I'm there, because I was an elementary education major with a concentration in mathematics. And a former math educator. I love teaching math. I still do it to this day through tutorial services. So that's a little bit about her. But ultimately, our mission is that we are a learning community where every student of every race, socioeconomic status, home language, and ability prepares to thrive in college, career, and life. And together we create a more just and kind world.
Beautiful. Well, what I was really struck when I look at your website, it really just seemed genuinely like whole child. And that's really, I think that's so important in what we work on in the foundation as well. So I loved it. It's so beautiful. So you talked about, you have a very diverse community that you serve. How would you describe the so-called market, or I guess the community that you're really looking to serve here? And you're a public school, so maybe you can share how that works a little bit with us.
Right. We're a public charter school in Washington, D.C. So we are a Title I school. And our students, while we are challenged with rigorous and relevant content in every classroom every day, we do anchor all of our work with students in trusting and loving relationships. So we have a very robust restorative justice program across our school to ensure that we're meeting those whole child needs. We also have a large family engagement department. But mostly the students that we serve are students who identify as people of color. Over 70% of our students actually, and our staff. Those are the students that we serve.
Great. And what is your role in the organization, and how did you get there? I mean, you're talent manager. Can you describe that, and how did you get into that? You were from an education start.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm the talent manager, and I support with hiring efforts in managing recruitment and candidate outreach. And I support hiring managers with just the interview and selection process and coordinating new orientation initiatives. And I just work really closely in that regard with overseeing recruitment and selection. But another huge part of my role is staff engagement and supporting the excellent employee experience. So I work a lot with my senior director to create orientation and onboarding plans that provide a welcoming environment and a solid training foundation to support employee retention. I also support with crafting new hire communications to ensure that orientation is smooth, and even beyond the hiring process, I'm responsible for different staff engagement events to honor our staff that we have retained over the years. So, for example, we have a huge event called Haynes Honors, which is kind of like our educational Grammys and Oscars. And that's at the end of the year, kind of red carpet style, because we believe educators
Wow.
deserve the nice things too. And
Yes.
we give out like really nice awards that also come with like monetary gifts. And we do these things throughout the year just to make sure our staff know that they feel appreciated and they feel honored and they feel recognized. And ultimately, like something that I always say is like, I want staff members to know that I see you. As a former
Mhm.
educator, I know what it's like to kind of feel unseen in the midst of working so hard in the face of adversity. So I am very intentional and loud and proud about
Mm.
making staff feel seen and
Oh,
heard. That's
oh,
my
you're
role.
you're absolutely speaking my language, and I just love that. And that's so important to create the right environment for people to be successful, both for the students and the teachers and the staff. And yeah, I have a 26-year career in higher ed, so I know how that feels, and how
Yeah.
important that is. So thank you. So I wanted to ask you whether what you thought the biggest problem in I guess public education or public charter school education, or maybe even in terms of organizational learning and support for your staff. What's the biggest problem you see, and however you want to slice that, and how are you solving that problem for yourself and your staff there, and or any partners that you work with?
Wow. That's a great question. And I'm trying to pick like the biggest one. Um, well, I have to say this too. We have to recognize that the times that we're living in, we are still in the midst of facing post-pandemic disruptions that not only just teachers but school leaders are also still learning how to navigate and work through and support students and staff from what the residue that the pandemic left over. So I have found it sometimes challenging to support staff members in how they feel recognized about maybe a challenge or a conflict that they're facing at work.
Mm,
So, something that my team is responsible for within like performance management is on both ends of the teacher or the staff member and their managers. We have a system called Rise that holds not only the staff member but the manager accountable for obtaining like high quality work every day. And we always set ambitious goals and embrace challenges and hold everyone accountable to those high standards through our Rise model.
oh,
So when there is a challenge and when there is an issue, managers and staff members can work through our Rise platform throughout the year, and they can create goals based off of these challenges, or they can create goals based off of these needs that need to be met. And Rise kind of helps guide them through the process of meeting that goal, but also holding them accountable and through check-ins and we call them smarty goals and it's like smarty check-ins throughout the year. So I have found that to be very helpful in just holding both parties accountable when it comes to like ambitious goal and embracing challenges, but also being able to track the development of how we meet a goal when we are faced with challenges. I think that's something that almost every school really needs to like dig a little bit deeper into and kind of innovatively create a toolbox where we can support one another but
mm,
also hold each other accountable in a way that still feels fair but still of high quality.
hmm. So this Rise thing enables you to collaborate on these problems.
Correct.
Okay.
And it gives kind of this balcony view of kind of where the issue lies and like what are the gaps in between and how we help bridge them. But then it also helps, at least my team, because sometimes there's a disconnect with like school staff and like a talent team or a HR team because we're not necessarily always on the front line of the work. So it
Yeah.
kind of gives us more of that direct view of what a staff member is experiencing while we may not be there directly to see it.
Uh-huh. I see. Okay. Well, wonderful. I'm curious about that platform. So, who, how would you describe your ideal person to work with? And what do they expect when they work? What can they expect when they work for you? What kind of outcomes would they expect?
So, we have like four core values that we look into when we are seeing the people that we select to engage with our staff in our school community and our students. We challenge ourselves and each other to interrupt inequities and to build equitable alternatives. So, I want students to see someone that leads for equity. That's important because we do have
Mm,
a large group of diverse learners, and we also have a large group of diverse staff members. So allowing opportunities to build equitable alternatives is very important, and someone has to have that vision.
mhm,
We also value someone who chooses joy and someone that likes to bring and share joy and work every day. And we practice gratitude and we celebrate wins and offer praise. So, someone that is jovial about their work and truly committed to their servant leadership. We also want someone that, again, delivers that high quality work every day and understands the value of ambitious goals. And when they are faced with the challenge, they know how to embrace it but hold themselves to a higher standard as well as the school and the community. So, someone that is interested in achieving excellence and then also being able to hold themselves accountable and own the learning.
mm,
So, modeling a growth mindset is important for students. And we really want people to own their actions and mistakes in learning and continually look for ways to improve and produce high quality work. So those are like the main like four things that we look into when not only we're attracting candidates to join our community, but also when we are retaining our staff and building and molding our staff. Those are the four things that we really dig deep into.
mm, mm. So it sounds like you're creating just a wonderful like container for people to become their best and to feel supported and seen and um,
Yeah.
in achieving excellence. That's beautiful. Um, well, what would make your school or you unique in the way that you help them to achieve this? I mean, you've talked about the type of person you are looking for in your community, and how do you what's unique about you and how you support them?
Yeah. So well, I love Haynes. I'm glad you asked that question. I love Haynes because we have a very large, robust kind of hierarchy dynamic within our departments. So, for example, like anyone who works in education knows, special education rates have increased significantly, especially since the pandemic, but even before that. So, what does that mean to be a special education teacher in 2025, 2024? It looks different than what it looked like in 2010 or even 2015 or so on. So we have a senior director of student support services, a director of special education, three assistant directors of student support services.
Wow.
In addition to the special education teachers, they have their paraprofessionals, and even we have volunteers. So I say that to say we understand all the support that is needed for our staff members to sustain in their role, but
Mm,
also to produce these excellent results that we are pushing
mm,
to achieve. So we provide a huge wealth of support for staff members across multiple departments, whether it's special education. We say multilingual learning. This is formerly known as like ESL, ELL. That
mm,
program too is very robust as well. Even our operations team. If you work in education, we don't function without operations, and we have three different teams, and even they have a hierarchy, robust support. So we actually invest in our community. We bring the people in to support one another, be able to execute their roles, with fidelity and with the support in place.
mm,
I could also share, like, just from the talent lens, like we also offer like different benefits for teaching, and working at Haynes. We are in a metropolitan area, so we have metro and parking benefits, of course, in addition to the personal and sick and paternal leave. We also have a 403B retirement account plan with 3% employer contribution match, different disability insurance policies, life and short term, long term, and a wealth and extensive professional development opportunities throughout the entire year, locally and across the country. We send our teachers away, in addition to like other benefits too.
Mm, wow. It just sounds like a dream community for a teacher or staff person to really feel part of something bigger than themselves. And actually, I know somebody who's going to be looking for a job next fall, so I might send her
Send
the
them my way because
yeah.
we are hiring for next school year already.
Oh,
To
okay.
that point, I'm sorry, that just made me think about something else. Like we are a very forward thinking school. So we already have we already have job postings for next school year available. So we just have a general elementary, middle, and high school teacher role posted on our website for next school
Okay.
year. Should the case that we learn of a vacancy for next school year from now up, through summer break, we are more than ready
Okay.
to fill in that vacancy because we believe on the first day of school, everybody should be in place so that students can be ready to learn. So we have I have my own hiring goal of filling all vacancies known by May 1st. Those have to be filled by June 1st because the first day of school is June 18th. So I
Right.
always make sure that all my vacancies are filled at least 2 weeks before the first day of school
Yeah.
so that our school feels equipped to be ready to have a strong start and thrive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll send somebody your way.
Please.
So there's so many challenges in education and especially since the pandemic um and especially in communities that are so diverse in so many ways. So what would you say is the biggest challenge in supporting the people that you work with within your organization or on your team? And I know it's been hard since COVID, especially.
Um, well, I did mention about like just the being able to balance the playing field between just staff members and manager and just
Mm,
meeting those needs and demands of whatever the challenges that they're facing on the front line. In my role, I can say because I represent and support over 200 people feel seen and heard, it is sometimes challenging to meet every single individual.
right.
I think about just, even what we just did for the holidays. We did like cookies and cocoa. And,
Mhm.
even I try to plan for every individual, every diet, every allergy, anything like that. But, or even every taste bud, let's say. But no matter what, you might have someone that may not
Right.
be satisfied.
Right.
So I think it took me a longer time to learn that, but I've kind of mastered it. Like I'm not going to satisfy everyone, but I can still share joy through my work, whether it's a smile through checking in. I have learned other alternatives to still make staff feel seen in their work, even if it's as minimal as speaking to them. I think and I'm bringing that joy word up a lot on purpose. The J factor is important to me because when people leave our community, we don't know what they're going through. And we know that, right now, America is a very like polarizing nation. From the first day of the year until now, we just keep seeing different news reports that have been quite destructive to the spirit of our community. And it would be socially irresponsible of me not to recognize that and not to acknowledge that, and that our staff members still find a way to come to work. I mean, it snowed 8 to 10 inches in DC on Sunday, and the snow is still there, but staff members have found a way to still come to work. We can't take that lightly. They showed up for our students. So that first day I went around to everyone and I went around to every classroom door just to say hello. I'm glad you're here. That means something to someone, and it
Uh-huh.
didn't cost me a dime. So I
Yeah.
really try to create opportunities that are thoughtful and meaningful
Mm,
and irreplaceable to
mm,
our staff members to help them continue to feel passion and joy in their work. And another reason why I'm also passionate about it is I did my capstone project for my master's program on the national teacher shortage in
mm,
America post pandemic. So I'm aware of how this exists across the nation.
mm,
So it's important that we value the educators that are still passionate about this work because it's not easy. So I am very intentional about investing right back into them so that they can come back to our students and pour that same joy and that love and consideration and thoughtfulness back into our students. I'm sorry, that
uh,
was probably long-winded. I just
no,
get so passionate about it.
no, it's beautiful to see because I mean, it is so challenging for frontline workers, especially since the pandemic. I mean, it's always been true. And yeah, just knowing that somebody is there and checking in on them, that cares about them, that can mean so much. So I think you already started to answer the next question I had a little bit about where you see education going in the next 5 to 10 years. I guess, there's the teacher shortage and how hard it is for teachers, or and how important it is for people like you or for the schools themselves to be really supporting the well-being of the staff, whether they're instructional or non-instructional. So do you want to say anything more about that or any other prediction for
You
what?
know, just when people talk about the future of education, I always bring up innovation and technology, and that I do believe we are now also looking at ways to refine our professional development to make sure, again, back to the point about meeting the needs of the whole child, like understanding that they live in this technical visual world, and we want to make sure that we are using the most up to date teaching pedagogies and even leadership strategies within our own staff members, because
Mm,
even they have their own stimulations as well. So I see in the future, I just see a more kind of technical, innovative,
mm,
visual classroom experience. I think it's interesting when you compare what the classroom looks like from the early 1900s to now. There are some similarities in some classrooms, and I think some of that will begin to change. Um, Over time because of technology, like in a good way. Like I wonder if we'll still have desks. Like, will we have AI robots teaching students? I mean, that's extreme, but I do think we have to be considerably recognizing of technology and the influence that it has in education
mm,
and what AI is doing, and how quick it's working and how students are able to access it. So I think we have to be mindful of that when we are still trying to ensure that students have like critical thinking skills, comprehension
mhm,
skills, and stuff like that. So we have to be up to date with the times. And I think we're going to have some very more technical, visual, like classrooms in the future.
mhm.
That's how I see
Yeah,
it.
that seems inevitable. Yeah, but the question is like, what will that look like, right? Um, so let's switch over to a little more personal question, Brianna. What was the biggest failure or challenge you faced to this point in your life? And how has that shaped the way you do your work?
Wow. Susanna, that's a good one. I mean, I identify as an African American female, and I know the foundation of my work is through my own personal experience in education growing up. Um, I have, you know, learned throughout life what the influence of my skin color, but also my gender, means to people that don't look like me, and I have learned a lot professionally on how to navigate and just channel life so I can still be influential in my career and go where I want to go, but also still fight for what's right and hold myself to a high expectation
Mhm,
and for my students. I think something that I have overcome is being angry about some childhood experiences.
mhm,
that influenced what I believe that I was a great teacher because of those
Mm,
experiences as a child in school. And I've learned how to shift that anger into passion, and it influenced significantly how I was able to deliver instruction to my
mm,
students.
mm,
So I think that situation also helps. I think about that when I'm faced with new challenges at work or in the community, wherever, at home, whatever. I think about that story, and I think about how I can, when moments where I may feel frustrated or upset or even angry because I'm human, how I can direct that in a way that brings either passion or love back to me. So, what is it that I can do that
mm,
in my work that will bring that passion back? Because sometimes we often get discouraged when we are faced with a challenge, and you have to confront that, and you have to learn how to kind of navigate around it and through it in a way that still you address it, but it also uplifts you. So I teaching really helped me understand that the talent manager role is certainly evolving that. And I'm not perfect, but I do think that is a great skill for me to be able to thrive in life and in my role.
mm. Yeah, I'd love to hear stories like that. Like it's just so important to know and to be able to find the path for ourselves to rise above our challenges. And thank you for sharing that story with me.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for asking.
if you could have lunch with one person, living or dead, who would that be and why? Maybe it's Yale Haynes.
Oh, I would love to meet her. Oh my goodness. Um, just one person. Um, just one
Well, if
person.
you want to list a couple, maybe there's the same reason for a couple people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, Harriet Tubman is someone I would love to interview just on her. She inspires me when I think about ambition and when I think about resilience.
Mm,
Like
definitely.
what was going through her mind to go back and and free more people, knowing that you could possibly I just I would love to like talk to her about how she remained consistent, ambitious, and goal driven. You
Mm,
want to talk about the face of adversity, but that's a different level of challenge. And to know that you could possibly be killed and people working against you. And I would love to interview her and sit down and talk with her on just what was going through her mind
mm,
and her and maybe even her spirituality. Like, what
mm,
is it that gave her that encouragement to keep
mm.
going and sticking on that fight? But not only to push herself through, but to continue to go back and
Yes.
bring more of her people
Yeah.
through.
So great.
That's that level of advancement, or excuse me, the level of advancement that she was able to bring to her community is unmatched and
Mm,
irreplaceable. So I would love for someone to be able to say that about me one day. And if I could talk to her, like those would be some of the questions I would ask. Yeah, Harriet Tubman is like number one.
I was wondering if anger from her own trauma wasn't one of the driving forces. So I would ask her that if I met her. I'm curious
Yeah,
on her behalf.
because they didn't have therapy then. They didn't have, there's no medications, none of that. So seriously, like what was going through your mind? What did you tell yourself? How did you remain encouraged? Right,
Yeah.
like we I didn't go through an ounce of challenges that she went through, but I don't know if I could have pushed through like that. So her story is fascinating and enlightening to me, and I would love to talk with her if I could.
I wouldn't underestimate you, Brianna, if I were a betting woman.
So
Um,
thank you, Susanna.
so what would be the best way for people to contact you if they'd like to work with you or discuss a partnership with you?
Absolutely. So if you're looking for career opportunities at EL Haynes, you can simply just Google career opportunities or job opportunities at EL Haynes Public Charter School. We are located in Washington, D.C. So you can, that'll populate if you Google it. We are actually transitioning to another system called Paycom where our job opportunities are posted. So some people who may be familiar with Talent Ed, who are used to our system, just know that that shift is taking place for next school year. I'm also going to share my email if that's okay. And it is BBROOKS, so B Brooks at elhaynes, HAYNES .org. So you can email me and I'm happy to connect with you via email. And then from there, I might share my number and we can talk a little bit more. But we are a Googleable school. So feel free to just Google us and our job opportunities will pop up immediately. You
Okay.
asked me something else. Was it a I
Um,
know it was about if you wanted to work with us.
yeah.
Oh, but if you also just want to get in touch with me or kind of keep up with me, because I do some other education work outside of
Oh,
Haynes. I am on Instagram at brooks.education. And that's kind of my virtual toolbox to support
okay.
educators with classroom
Oh,
strategies. But I also do different community service projects with students where we do day camps and we bring in other certified educators to kind of teach some skills that students usually don't get to learn and master throughout the school day. So
oh.
that happens throughout the quarter. You can keep up with that at brooks.education. And then, of course, I'm on LinkedIn, and that's my full name, Brianna Brooks, with one N, Briana. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Sounds like another topic to discuss in some other time. So, final question, what's the next area of growth you're focusing on for either yourself or your work, your organization?
Right. So remember I was mentioning our platform called Rise, which every staff member has access to Rise. We all have room for growth and room to improve. So we all have goals to meet throughout the year. So immediately two that I'm thinking about, one is our university partnerships. So something that our teachers have stressed that they really enjoy are our relationships with student teachers and different local universities, but also other national universities that are seeking student teaching practicum or field work. We encourage them to come to Haynes. And because that also supports our full-time teachers with their caseloads and things like that. They really enjoy our student teachers because they're really passionate about the work and they just really enjoy being a mentor teacher. I love seeing like how those relationships evolve over time. So that's one. And so another big push with those university partnerships is going outside of our local DMV area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So I have some goals of trying to get outside of this of DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and going to other areas that attract teachers to our community. The other area of growth for me is I mentioned that we have a large special education and multilingual learning department. So, one discrepancy that we were able to identify a couple years ago was that, if I'm being just transparent, majority of our MLL teachers do not look like the students that they serve. And so, we wanted to bridge that gap. So, I have been actively seeking teachers who are interested in MLL or aspiring ESL, ELL, or MLL teachers to join our network through relationships and investing time into those programs. So I think those are like two challenges that I'm really focused on bridging for this school year.
Okay. Sounds ambitious, and I wish you great luck with that.
Thank
So
you.
that's it for now, Brianna. I really
Okay.
appreciate you coming with your beautiful vision and energy and sharing with us this wonderful resource in the DC city for the city youth. And really thank you for the work you and your community are doing on behalf of making a better future for our future citizens and leaders.
Yeah, Susanna, I appreciate you too. The feeling is mutual. I think these conversations are pertinent unfortunately, like these discussions, they're not making the national news. So the work that you all are doing here is just as important and just as valuable. So
Oh,
thank you for also investing this time back into me and back into the community to share these conversations in this work. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Healing Paths Podcast weekly hot take series. We hope you've been inspired by today's stories and strategies for building more resilient, healthier, and stronger communities. Remember, resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about growing to be bigger and better through every challenge. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from these insights. So stay connected, be resilient, and we'll see you next time.